we were kind of a solo mission. We're all by ourselves. We're going where people don't know we're there. Prior Olympic athletes, NFL football players, like best and brightest people there. Talk about dive physics while you're doing 100 burpees for time, and proceeded to just do all of these crazy things to try to sabotage our business. I was in the nuclear field, and he helped me immensely. His name was Edmond, and was just laying on the ground like, man, when can I do this again?
You went like full circle. You went from like wanting to be special warfare to recruiting special warfare.
And what the Navy taught me was like, just crush you with negative feedback.
So it sounds like a lot of your personal training experience was like with elite or soon to be elite. So we're talking like people training to be Navy SEALs. Yeah, if you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself, and you know who you are, where you're from, and everything that led you to join the military.
Okay, my name's Cody Hajek. I'm 36. Was born in San Jose, California. I grew up in a town called Buda, Texas, which is just south of Austin. Pretty much grew up around Austin, and signed to join the Navy when I was 17. Went off to the military when I was 18. I was in the nuclear field in the Navy, which, a little backstory there. I originally joined to try to get a BUDS and be a SEAL. At the time, they did not have a direct path back in 2006. So you had to sign up for another job and then screen once you got to Chicago for boot camp. But what my recruiter failed to tell me was by signing up for a nuclear billet, I was not eligible to try out to go to BUDS. So, yeah, I kind of put a bad taste in my mouth when I very first joined the military. Tried to screen pretty much the entire 10 years that I was in. Got out, even subsequently tried to get back in the Navy, but ultimately it just, I guess it wasn't in the cards for me to go. So I was on subs. I was on the USS Georgia, which was out of Kings Bay. Let's see here. Just a little background on like training. So yeah, I went to boot camp in Chicago. Went to Charleston, South Carolina for nuclear A school and power school. Then I went to Ballston Spa, New York to train at they actually have a couple of nuclear reactors up there that you go work on and learn how to operate a nuclear reactor to go to a sub or a carrier. I sub-volunteered, so that's how I ended up on submarines. I also volunteered for a school called Engineering Laboratory Technician, and essentially what that is a glorified nuclear water chemist. So when I showed up to the boat, I was your primary role was machinist mate, and then had collateral duties as a chemist. Pretty much spent the entire time I was on the Georgia as a chemist. Qualified lead ELT there. Did a bunch of qualifications. Ended up getting the opportunity to go to dive school in Panama City, Florida. What after that? I had 3 years left, and when I transferred to Oklahoma City to be a recruiter, and then I got the opportunity to be a special warfare recruiter. Did that for the last 3 years that I was in the Navy, and that's how I ultimately ended up in Oklahoma, where I live now. I was a recruiter in Edmond, Oklahoma specifically, and that's still where I live now. I've always been
Like it went like full circle. You went from like wanting to be special warfare to recruiting special warfare. It's the
Yes.
irony of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how that worked out too, because I showed up to the command as a recruiter. We actually had a PRT, which is just a physical readiness test, and the SEAL mentor was actually he facilitated the test, and he saw my performance and was like, "Who is this guy?" Uh, and so he asked he asked I guess my office if he could steal me to be the Spec War scout. He helped me immensely. His name was Eddie Penny. And him, along with another guy named Ken Graves, did everything they could to help me get the opportunity to screen and go. But I'll spare you the bureaucracy of it. But yeah, ultimately, I just could not go. And I wore that as a chip on my shoulder for a very long time, because I wanted to do it since I was like probably 10 or 11 years old. Um, and so that's kind of how I got into the fitness industry, I guess you could say. While I was still in Kings Bay, a girl introduced me to CrossFit there. I had heard about it. I was like, that just sounds like really stupid and expensive. And she was like, whatever, just come to a class. You get your first class is free. You can check it out. So I went one time and I was hooked. I mean, it completely destroyed me and was just laying on the ground like, man, when can I do this again? So signed up at a gym there. It was actually in Jacksonville, Florida, but that's only like 20 minutes from Kings Bay. Um, Ended up going to get my coaching certification while I was still there. Coached a little bit at there's a base in Pensacola, so I got to teach some classes there while I was TDY for another school. When I moved to Oklahoma, I immediately started doing CrossFit there because I had no relatives in Oklahoma. Pretty much all of the recruiting command that was up there with me was married and didn't have much in the way of a social life. Like I couldn't go out with them and do anything. So signed up to a gym called CrossFit OKC. Um, Asked if I could coach there. They were like, well, we have a waiting list to coach. So I reached out to a couple other gyms, and this guy named Derek McElroy at CrossFit Home Base, he asked me if I wanted to coach at his gym. And so I started coaching there. Little to no experience. Looking back on it, I was probably like a terrible coach at the time, because all I knew was uh, really what the Navy had taught me. And what the Navy taught me was like just crush you with negative feedback and see how you respond to it.
Yeah.
So, um, those early days of coaching was a lot of just telling people they sucked and they're a piece of shit and they needed to go harder and stop with the excuses.
Mm-hmm.
He was an Army guy, so he loved that. He was all about that. Um, and then this other guy came along called Rick Ward, who owned Edmond CrossFit. I started coaching there as well, and that's where I met my previous partners, which I'll get into, but Blake and April Chambers. So they were both members at Edmond CrossFit. I coached there for about 2 years, and Blake came to me with the idea to maybe try to buy the gym from Rick. And Rick, he he had a 14,000 square foot facility. He had a lot of really top tier equipment, really nice stuff. Probably one of the nicest gyms, if not the nicest gym in Oklahoma. But his membership numbers were just not there to support that. So when we asked him about buying, he had just this astronomical number that he wanted for the gym. So we were both just like, well, I guess that plan's out. Plan B is maybe we just try to go open our own spot. Um, so him and I both put some money down. We opened up, I don't know, probably 2 miles down the street from where Edmond CrossFit was, which Rick obviously was not very happy about,
Yeah.
um, and proceeded to just do all of these crazy things to try to sabotage our business. Like, um, let me see here. So we had to open an FBI investigation into cyber attacks to our gym website, and I can't confirm that
Yeah.
that was him, but I don't know who else goes after some little local CrossFit gym website. When we
Wow, he
first
was
opened,
playing dirty. Jeez.
he was. He okay, so I was 1099 as an employee for him. He sent something to the IRS that said I made some ridiculous amount of money this year, like trying to get a bunch of me to have to pay uh, on what he said was like $300,000 that I made coaching at his gym, which was not correct. So I had to fight through that. Um, our first, I don't know, probably month, he would fly his drone over our gym to see who all was there. It was just like one thing after another.
Jeez.
It
In
was crazy.
Oklahoma. Like, holy cow. That's
Yeah,
I've heard of crazy stories about that with competition opening up close and the existing businesses kind of playing dirty, going to the city, and I've never heard anybody trying to attack their website. Like, usually they circumvent federal offenses, but it looks like your boy went straight for the jugular.
he did. And so the reason that we got to open the investigation is because our gym website was on the same server as like this multi-million-dollar a day company, and so when our website got attacked, it dropped the entire server. So
Oh wow.
that company was obviously really pissed because they lost,
Yeah.
you know, however much money. Um, they never figured out, confirmed who did it, but I would hedge some money on the fact that that's what happened. Um,
Dang,
what
that's
else?
crazy.
Yeah. Um,
So I want to
go ahead.
back up real quick though. Just because I've had a couple other folks who have gone down the special warfare path. I'm just curious. I know I'm bringing you all the way back to the beginning of your story here, but what what did your parents say? Like what was that like when you told them that you were going to go be a Navy SEAL?
They were hardcore against it. Uh,
Oh, really?
oh yeah, yeah. They did not want me to do it. Um, yeah, hardcore against it. I think they would always be like, "We know that you're capable, but we don't want you going out there and like dying." I guess.
Hmm.
And I was like, "Well, I understand that, but like, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to serve. I think this is how I have the best capacity to serve." Which, um, going back to like when I was in A school, um, nuclear power school, for people that don't know, it's like one of the more difficult schools academically that you can go to in the military. Um, and it was very hard. So I remember I'd call my dad every day and be like, "Dad, like this is not what I want to do. I just want to quit." I Because if I quit, then I'd get rolled into some other job and I would get the opportunity to try to go to Buds.
Hmm.
And he would tell me like every day, he'd be like, just make it through one more day. Try your best. If you make it through this test, keep going. And yeah, I've never been a very good quitter. So even as I said it, I knew that like I'm just going to try as hard as I can, and let the cards kind of fall however they fall. Because I felt like if I just quit, then I'd be a freaking turd. Um, so made it through the
Yeah.
school. Um, always went into even doing the job. It wasn't something that I wanted to do, and the command knew that. I was very outwardly expressive about the fact that, hey, I want to put in a package. This is what I want to do. Some of my leadership really appreciated that transparency, and others like utilized it as an opportunity to try to just shit on me and get me in trouble and things of that nature. But
Yeah. I have a friend who's a nuke. Well, she was a nuke. Her and I were in boot camp together. That's how we met. She ended up getting out and getting this like awesome job working for a company that makes like isotopes for chemotherapy or something.
Mhm.
And she doesn't do that anymore. I think her husband, who was also a nuke, again an MM or machinist mate, same thing. But I know a lot of people who go down that path end up going to do some like crazy shit working at a nuclear reactor, and you
yeah,
very
and
obviously didn't want to do
no,
that.
no, I mean, because they make very good money. They
Yep.
tried to recruit me to go work at a plant after I got out, and I just uh, wasn't passionate about the work itself,
Hmm.
and I was not a big fan of most of it until you get to a certain qualification as rotating shift work, which is not a good time. Uh, kind of, they say all the studies taking like decades off of your life and all those
Yeah.
sorts of things. So that wasn't very appealing to me.
No, I mean I was
Um,
surface navy, so we used to laugh at the nukes. We always knew who were nukes because they were like ghostly, like they hadn't seen the light of day. And she was on a ship. She was on an aircraft carrier, so she was in like the reactor. That was like her thing. That was her work center. And I laugh every time I see her. I'm like, girl, I can see right through you. Like, go get some sun. Like, they never come up for air, but and they get you with the star reenlistment, right? They give you this like crazy
mhm.
bonus automatic E6, and like, they make nukes seem like a sweet deal, which I'm sure that's the picture your recruiter painted for you, something like spectacular. But
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, well, and he was just basically bold faced lying to me the whole time because
oh
he
yeah,
didn't even really tell me about the job. I was just like, I just know I have to pick this other job, so I can go to Buds. Like that was my mindset. So I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. Yeah, like sign me up for that. I was like, I'll get to boot camp, I'll screen for Buds, and then they'll just move me over there. So I didn't
yeah.
really know a whole lot of what I was getting into. My dad, he looked into it quite a bit and was like, this is a great job. This is a good backup. This is why you should pick this job. Um, and I was just naive at the time and didn't do enough digging on my own to realize that I was stuck.
Yeah, I always luck out because every time I talk to people about their recruiting story, it's always like some crazy recruiter who's coming in like JJ Wentworth lawyer, just lying to you, telling anything you want to hear, and it's completely opposite. And like I went into my recruiter's office. Brian Lugervier was my recruiter. Shout out to him. Like I'm still friends with him. And I was like, I want to do some cool shit. Like it was the thick of the war, so I was like, yo, send me. I'm from the
Hmm.
South Bronx. I'm like, I'm getting shot at anyway. Like I might as well do it for my country at this point. So
Yeah.
he was like, well, women can't really do the things you want to do. There's no jobs for you yet. He's like, but if you want to go work on like cool ass weaponry, you can go be a gunner. And I was like, let's go.
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah, so I was like, so my recruiter was always really honest with me and getting piped for as close to boots on ground as I possibly could. And fortunately, I was able to deploy. But it's always interesting. I'm curious, what was it like being on a sub, especially as a nuke?
I mean, they're they're bigger than people think. Our
Of
sub
course.
was 560 feet long, 3 levels,
Oh
and
wow.
um, 9-man berthing. So 9 of us all slept in between a bunch of Tomahawk missiles. Um, your living space was very small. I mean, it encompassed the area of like where you slept, which was the size of a twin bed, and then it had a pull-up rack, and most of the things that you brought with you were stored underneath there. You had one additional like pull-out drawer, and that was like your living space. And at the time, I wasted so much space on like cases of Red Bull that I lined the bottom of my rack with, and um, my
Yeah.
assortment of uniforms and things like that. But um, once you're underwater, you just kind of forget that you're underwater, unless you're doing some sort of angles and dangles where you're like going super deep or super shallow, where the boat's at some extreme angle.
Hmm.
Um, because yeah, subs don't have windows. They
Yeah.
operate off of sonar, so like you just you just get very familiar with piping systems and hallways
Yeah.
and steam systems. Um, I mean, I could still probably like mentally walk from my rack to my watch station, because yeah, you were out there so long, you would just start kind of going crazy a little bit. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I know that. So every time that we went underway, again, surface Navy, when I was on a ship, well, for starters, I used to always do this submarine workouts that they had at like the Navy Fit Command. Had all these workouts you could do in like a 3x3 space, and I loved
okay.
those because I could do them in like my work center. It was on the Navy Fit app. I was a command fitness leader, so I was always looking for ways to work out on the job, not having to go down to
Yep.
the gym. But I don't know if I again, you don't know until you actually do it, but I spent a lot of time outside underway. I loved being on the water. Like, if there was any moment in time that I could be dangling off the side of the ship fixing something, which I usually was,
Hmm.
or like just if I can just observe the ocean, that was my favorite place to be at night when you're not really supposed to be out on the flight deck or like anywhere outside for the most part because nobody can see you. I was
Yeah.
outside. I was outside just like looking at all the stars. I loved it. So being on a sub is so foreign to most people, not just
For
people in the
sure.
Navy, but like yeah,
For sure. And um, I said earlier I was a diver, so anytime that we surfaced for anything, I always got to go topside. And I agree. I always
oh that's
appreciated
dope. Yeah,
that that I would always be one of the people that would get to see the sun, or on some of the operations we did where we would like helo somebody in, or a rib would come out and meet us. It might be the middle of the night, and like the only light available was the light off of the mast. Um, and I mean, you're never going to see more stars anywhere than out in the middle of the ocean like that. Um, some other cool experiences on the surface were like transiting, like Suez Canal, going through the Straits of Gibraltar, um, coming into Crete. That was really cool. I remember that vividly because it was the first time I had ever seen mountains that just come straight out of the ocean.
yeah,
So I remember pulling in there and it just being like a whole new world, being like, wow, okay, like this travel thing part of the Navy is kind of
yeah,
cool. Uh, we so we were on a guided missile sub. I If I had done another rotation, I think I would have requested a fast attack submarine
hmm,
because they get attached to the surface Navy, so they get to pull in to all of the places that the carriers go, and that battle group gets to go. So they get a lot more travel opportunities than we did. We were kind of a solo mission. We're all by ourselves. We're going where people don't know we're there to gather all sorts of intel on people.
yeah.
Um,
All the
so
super secret squirrel missions of a tube in the sea. Yeah, that's
exactly,
the.
exactly.
I remember once I was in working in combat in the CIC on the ship, and I'm a CWIS tech, but that shit's happening. Like
Hmm.
my gun goes off last. Like things have to be really fucked for me to actually have to fire CWIS. So
Absolutely.
so I'm like, talking to other people, all the operations specialists that are, observing other radars and whatever else. I'm like, the fuck is that? Like, are we not concerned about that thing following us? They're like, oh yeah, this like random sub, like it's a US sub. We're doing like a joint exercise, and then they're gonna go off and do their own thing. I'm like, where the fuck did they come from? Because
Yeah.
like, so it was pretty cool to kind of. I mean, I didn't get to see the sub, but like to see it on the monitor, I was like, damn, that's stealthy as shit. So it was pretty cool to have like a moment of realizing that there's a whole entire operation happening, training exercise happening, and I had no fucking idea. Like even the
Right.
training was so covert. But yeah, no, I was a friend of mine who was actually on that ship with me, the America. She was one of the first female. She was like part of the group of 5 females to be first assigned to subs, and she was in LS. She fucking loved it. She loved it. The
Yeah. Yeah.
integration was interesting, but if anybody was going to integrate seamlessly with the crew that's predominantly all male, she was the best person for the
She was
job.
a good candidate for it. Yeah.
Yeah, they did a really good job in choosing her. She was drama free, did not play any games. I honestly barely know anything about her personal life. That shit did not come to work. And she always got along with everybody. So, and from my conversations with her after she left the like sub world, I want to say she ended up going like recruiting or something. And she just had nothing but good things to say about it. She loved it more than the surface navy. But so yeah, let's real quick. So you're diving. So you were a diver. Did you maintain that qualification after you got out? Is there like the government to civilian certification that you get?
Yes, you get PADI certified, which is just a lifelong certification. So I got that. I actually got to do a little bit of like recreational dive mastering while I was still in the Kings Bay area, which was a blast. I mean, we'd go out, guide dives, we'd spearfish and like shoot fish while everybody else is out kind of checking out whatever we were diving. And we'd on a surface interval, you'd come up, you'd clean the fish, uh, serve it up a number of ways to kind of I don't know, give them
That's
a
pretty.
unique experience, which it
Yeah,
was a lot of fun.
that's fucking cool as shit. I love to fish. I'm more of like a fly fishing person, but if somebody was like, "Hey, we're gonna go with these divers, and they're gonna fucking spear fish," like let's fucking go.
Yeah, yeah, it was a
That's
blast.
awesome.
And
Yeah.
dive school itself was a lot of fun too because they had a lot of that going on, like on our training dives and things like that. Um, Pool hits was probably the coolest part of dive school itself, where you'd be swimming along the bottom and they'd test you by like um, acting like they were some rough seas. So they would just come over the top of you and like rip your mask off, rip your hose out, tumble you all around the bottom of the pool, and then you got to try to put yourself back together without any air. Um,
Oh, that's
so
interesting. I've seen that. I had for a while tried to go PJ with the Air Force, and that's one of their training exercises when you actually get through the first like buds essentially.
mhm.
And yeah, it terrifies people. I've seen a lot of people drop out just because they can't get over the anxiety of being like underwater with no gear.
Yeah, I mean, it took some getting used to for sure, but they would mess with you so bad. I mean, I remember they'd rip your stuff off and then you'd like go to put your goggles back on and clear them. And there'd be like two big dicks and grease pencil like drawn on your goggles. And they'd be just constantly like insulting you and shit and telling you you're not going to make it. And, um, it was a blast. I loved it.
Yeah, I went so after I got out. Oh, well, not after I got out. After I was out of the like my first little sea tour, I went search and rescue swimmer, and I was in that pipeline when I eventually decided to get out because they wanted me to observe in order to go through the SAR school, and I just didn't want to do. I was already in for 8 years, and I was like, I don't want to do another 4 with the
Hmm.
potential of like I would lose my rate. So I would go through. It wasn't like the SAR school that you go to that if it's like a collateral, if you're like a if you're collateral a SAR swimmer attached to a ship, that's one thing. But if you're a part of like a squadron that's your designator. And they were like, you won't be an FC anymore. You'll be needs of the Navy at that point. I was like, fuck that. I'm an E6. I'm not trying to be a
Yeah,
brand new
yeah, yeah.
E6.
You're like, I'm not gonna get, yeah, I'm not gonna
Yeah,
give that away.
no, no. I was having a really good, like, my career was awesome at that point. So we would do like these training drills, and we would see guys who were training. It's kind of like a mentorship program. So you get your
Mhm.
like second class swim qual, and then we split up, and there were some folks that were trying to go like diver, EOD, some other special warfare. So there's like these mentors that are helping you that
Mhm.
are usually in that field. And I used to see the spec war guys just getting fucked with, just like the divers too. Just like they could not just swim. They're like, hey, do the breaststroke, the 20 yards or whatever. Come back, do this stuff. And like in the middle of doing that, someone's like jumping in the fucking pool, like putting their shirt over their heads, like just messing with them just to get them used to the uncertainty of being in the ocean.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They had all kinds of games. I remember you'd walk in the staff instructor office and they had this wheel of pain is what they called it. So you'd go in there to like report for one thing or another, and they'd be like, "Hey, Petty Officer Hajek, how about you spin the wheel of pain?" So you'd spin it, and it'd have some calisthenics exercise or something, and you'd be having to like talk about dive physics while you're doing 100 burpees for time, and they made it terrible and fun all at
Yeah.
the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sorry, I didn't know that there were divers on subs, so that's actually like news to me. I'm familiar with, Navy divers, but
Mhm.
especially during like degaussing, it's really when surface really interfaces with divers, training exercises and stuff like that. But
Yeah, so mine was a collateral similar to how you described the SAR swimmer. So
right.
that wasn't our primary billet; it was just a secondary. And
Hmm.
anytime we pulled in, we'd have to do hull inspections. So we'd dive, check the hull for like limpet mines, and make sure people weren't trying to sabotage our intakes or the discharges. A
Damn, so
cool
you're like under the sub. You're like that's fucking terrifying. Sorry.
It was so in Kings Bay, Georgia. It had like the worst viz of any port that I ever dove in. It was blackwater diving. I mean,
Just
guide by
murky.
hand feel only. You can't see shit. And in Kings Bay, they train these attack dolphins that basically will intercept people that are trying to gain access to the port from the water.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember a couple of dives. We would be diving, doing a training dive or something, and I'm down like towards the bottom, and something's like jabbing me in the kidney, and I was like,
Oh
and
shit.
you have a buddy diver that you're roped off to, so I'm like assuming that he's like hitting me or something.
Hmm.
So I'm just like, man, what the fuck is going on? Uh, and I surface, and sure enough, the Dolphins were out training, and they were like, "Oh yeah, he was probably just coming to say hi or whatever." And I mean, it was just the weirdest thing.
Just getting booped by a dolphin, like
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
damn. That's. I mean, I've seen. So I've seen submarines in person only a handful of times. Like actually seeing the submarine, not just on the
Hmm.
monitor. And the last time was it's you don't see them often unless you're
Yeah.
looking for them really, because you can totally miss them if you're not looking for them.
Hmm.
But it was in Point Loma in San Diego, and I was on top of the hill at the where was I at? I was at the security office, and I'm like out, I'm like looking out at the water because again, that's like my favorite place. So I'm like
Hmm.
looking out, and I'm like, is that a fucking submarine? So like I drive my car down, and I had to go through a second security, and I was like, I just want to go look at it. They're like, okay. So
Yeah.
they let me they let me through because I'm obviously like non-threatening. I'm like legit being like, yo, I've never seen one before. Like, can I get closer? And they're like, yeah, okay. They actually had somebody meet me there. You can't just like go walk up to a sub,
Right. Yeah.
even if you're on base. They're like, okay, like drive there, and then like someone will meet you. They were really nice about it, and I got to I couldn't go on the pier, but I could like see it. And I'm like, oh my god, it's really small. They're like, that's not the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah. That's just like 10% of it. Yeah.
yeah, they're like, look at it from like this angle, and I'm like, holy shit. I thought it was a like a dip in the depth, which would make the water darker. They're like,
Yeah.
no, that's the fucking submarine. And I was like, yo, it's fucking huge. Um, but I remember seeing that. I was just extremely interested because it's a part of the Navy. Like I consider like the submariner stuff and special warfare kind of like in these categories that are so far away from surface Navy. You hear stories because what do people do about stuff they don't know? They just make up shit.
Right,
So
exactly. Yeah. Come up with a cool story about it. Yeah.
yeah, but anyway, no, that's pretty awesome. So I'm like, let me ask more about this sub stuff because it's so interesting to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
The cool,
even though it wasn't special warfare, it still seems pretty cool.
no, it was cool, and the community aspect of it was exactly what I was looking for. I mean, the crew's 150 guys, um, so we were all super tight. The officer to enlisted dynamic, from what I hear, is very different than it was surface. I mean, to a large extent, they were like one of the guys, and you were one of the guys. If we pulled in anywhere, we'd go hang out with them. Um, and yeah, so it was just a really cool community. Um, I think the coolest um, way that I ever got to see the submarine was we were doing some dry deck shelter certification ops in the Florida Keys. And so I got to, I'll just give you a little more information. So the two front tubes on a SSGN are lockout chambers. So they can put guys in there, they flood it out, and
Yeah.
then you can leave the sub while it's submerged.
Hmm.
So I got to lock out with a SEAL team, get in the dry deck shelter into what's called the SEAL delivery vehicle, and we got to
Hmm.
like cruise around on like this little mini sub, doing
Yeah,
circles around the big sub. Um, and
that's cool as shit. Yeah.
Viz in the Keys is like insanely good, right? Like
Hmm.
100 plus feet of visibility. So you could see the entire sub just kind of ominously going through the water. You can see the prop just slowly spinning. Um, and
That's so
it was
fucking
it
cool.
was badass. Yeah. That was
Yeah.
probably like the coolest view I ever had.
There was a movie that just came out that kind of showed that seal delivery system on a submarine. And I was watching, I think it was like a Wired review where they had a Navy SEAL, retired Navy SEAL, rate Navy SEAL movies. And
Hmm.
he looked because the entire time he was like looking at the camera, but he looks over to like the producer. He's like, "Are you guys allowed to show this?" They're like, "It's a fucking movie." They're like, "I didn't know that people knew about these seal delivery things." He's like, "For us,
Uh,
that's like not a thing that we talk about because especially since it's part of the sub community, they're like, nah, they made a movie about it." He's like,
yeah.
"Oh shit." So that was the first time I'd ever seen it, but the clip in the movie is like 10 seconds. You don't really get to see anything. So that's actually really cool. Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. So what happened? So you're so when you went recruiting as a spec war recruiter, do you what is I mean, I know there's certain things that you probably can't talk about, but what does that look like when it comes to assessing candidates? When you have somebody who comes into your office, like most people will, saying, I want to be a Navy SEAL.
Oh yeah, yeah, that happened all the time. So weekly, I would facilitate a physical screening test, which for people that don't know is just kind of like the entry physical exam to even be looked at as a candidate. So I'd facilitate that in like Norman, Oklahoma, or Lawton, Oklahoma. And I'd kind of float all over the state facilitating these tests for recruiters that had candidates that were interested. Um, if they passed the test, that was kind of the minimum. We had, I think they still do it this way, but essentially there's a draft every month. And so they put all of these candidates in there that have they put their PST in there, they put their ASVAB score in there, and a host of other attributes of the candidate. And then the SEAL or other spec or community will select a certain amount of people a month from that pool of people, and that's who they would contract to get to go to that school. And so most of the time, those people that you're talking about that would come into the office and be like, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL, blah, 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 they would just get fucking smoked by the test.
Mhm.
And then you probably don't ever hear from them again because they're embarrassed or something like that. Occasionally, you would get somebody that comes in there, gets smoked by the test, uh, show up to these other workouts that I would host every week, and then they could re-screen. Um, I think I hosted it like twice a month at the same location, and so you really got to see like which guys had some sort of resolve, which guys really wanted it. Um, we had several girl candidates for SAR and Diver as well, and you got to the point where you could talk to a candidate for like 5 minutes and realistically tell if they had any sort of chance of having what it takes.
Yeah,
Um,
I have a friend. He's special warfare now, so I won't name him, but he was with me in the Navy. He all he wanted to do was be a Navy SEAL. Finally got into buds. I saw him like and then like disappeared. That pipeline is just like unless you're near buds and you can see him running to school, like you don't see him again.
yeah.
So I ran into him at medical. I was dropping off one of my girls, and he was there with another buds candidate who had been injured. Turns out he had like blown his Achilles, had
Oh, shit.
missed like 2 cycles, but the guys loved him, so they kept him at the schoolhouse, uh, like doing stuff and not just like sitting around. They
Mhm.
actually had him like doing things that they wouldn't normally have a candidate do until he was healed, and then he ended up getting out of the Navy before he could ever go through the buds again, and now he's a Green Beret. So
Oh,
like,
nice. Nice.
yeah, he did not stop. So I was never a recruiter, but you could just tell like, and this kid, I was a command fitness leader,
Mhm.
just smoke it. I barely hit my stopwatch and he'd be fucking done. Like
Yeah.
he's just a beast. And I never got to see him swim, but I'm assuming he obviously did pretty well now that he's a Green Beret. But anyway, so the training exercises that you would do, were they just like mock like PRTs or
It would just be a host of different things. Like we'd host pool workouts where we would just focus on the combat side stroke, some sort of drown proofing that they would expect in the schoolhouse that they were in. Um, Sometimes we would just do like calisthenic beat down type workouts to like see if they had some sort of mental resolve. Um, Track workouts because the run, like if somebody could pass the swim, they typically struggled with the run. And if they were really good at a run, they typically struggled with the swim. Like not a whole lot of people that came through had both on lock. It was just like one or the other. And so they had to kind of clean up their gaps on which one that they struggled with.
yeah, when I was attempting to go down the Air Force pipeline, I went to those workouts that were held by the recruiters. They had a little bit of like a mentorship program, and I was really good in the pool. I still had to work on my time, which there's obviously the discrepancy between performance or of performance between men and women is there. So I had to be like the absolute fucking best. But luckily, I'm a fish in the water, but I am a brick in on the track. Like
Yeah.
I'm not aerodynamic. Like I can get the run done. Like if you want me to go run a half marathon, cool. You want me to run as fast as I fucking can for 3 miles? Not happening. But
Gotcha.
there were guys there that just exactly like you're saying. They were just gazelles on the track and just couldn't fucking swim.
Yeah.
But no, that's pretty cool that you guys do that because I do have listeners that come from that community or are striking for that community, and
Oh yeah, and I mean, they've done such a better job of kind of preparing candidates for what to expect instead of just like throwing them in blind. I mean, they realized that like we potentially had a good candidate here if he had any level of preparation. So they've added quite a few layers, whether it's before you leave for the Navy, coming and working out with us. When they get in the Navy, you know, you got in-doc and things like that are kind of an introduction to what the pipeline is going to be like. And I mean, they have some of the best in the world, whether it's running coaches, swimming coaches,
Hmm.
prior Olympic athletes, NFL football players, like best and brightest people there pouring into these candidates with a wealth of knowledge. So really, it's just on them to like take that on and prepare.
Yeah, I'm a part of something called the Operators Association. It is a mentorship group for anybody looking to enter spec war, and not just the highlights, right? Not just SEALs and Green Berets. Like even if you wanted to go, diver or search and rescue, anything that was a part of a specialized community.
Hmm.
So the guy who runs it is a former Green Beret, and then the people that are inside of the group, they go by pseudonyms because they are all still active
Mm.
special forces. But like I got assigned a PJ mentor. He wasn't near me, but he like hooked me up with like getting access to like deep end fitness, and it's definitely a great resource now. And you're right, the support system and resources for people going into that field are definitely there. So it sounds like a lot of your personal training experience was like with elite or soon to be elite. So we're talking like people training to be Navy SEALs. How does that? And I can understand like the beat downs. Like to me, I still am motivated by somebody telling me like get the fuck up and go do this,
Right.
right?
Hmm. Oh yeah.
So so you took that experience as a recruiter and doing all the things that you were doing and just time in the military and applied that to CrossFit. I don't know much about CrossFit. I know the stereotypes,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah. Everybody knows the stereotype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love watching the CrossFit games, but that's like trying to learn football by watching the NFL. There's a lot of like high level stuff that's happening. But it's and now they have that new series, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? I forgot the name of it. It's in Australia. There's a chick who retired from CrossFit games, like one of the elite athletes, and she's now performing in this like subset. It's almost like
I think you're
CrossFit
talking about like
2.0.
the Global Fitness Project.
That might be it. It's like it's a different all of the workouts seem to be the same.
Hmm.
There are actual machines there, like rowing machines and things like that. It's
Oh, I
so
think
weird.
you're talking about High Rocks.
Is that
Yeah.
what that is? I just watched like a short little clip on her YouTube channel of her leaving CrossFit but now going to do this other thing, and she's from Australia, so
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, the only difference between that and CrossFit is that event is the same every time that you do it. Um,
oh, interesting. CrossFit's
so
not
it's
the
like
same?
CrossFit is the unknown and the unknowable. That's like what you're preparing for, right? So
Oh,
the
interesting.
whole idea behind it is to prepare you for things that you can't anticipate, um, which makes you just a more better, capable human. Whereas High Rocks, it's just a single stage event with a bunch of running, skiing, rowing, with
Hmm.
some other like CrossFit esque type implements like
Yep.
sled pushes, wall balls, things like
That's
that.
right. Yeah, I saw that. I had no fucking idea that CrossFit Games was the unknown. So I'm
Oh yeah.
like super naive to CrossFit. And I just recently started looking at it because I caught a CrossFit game while I was at the gym. It was playing at the gym. And
Hmm.
I was like, bro, that's fucking insane. So you're telling me that these athletes prepare to go into a world stage of competition and they have no idea what's going to be expected of them.
Yeah, there's several of the events will be announced ahead of time,
Sure.
but like, several of the workouts, they're learning about the workout the morning of, or in some cases, right before they walk out on the floor.
Wow. Okay. I think this might be the connotation that a lot of us share. Meaning, when I say us, I mean folks that are naive to the CrossFit world.
Hmm.
Is you see someone kip once and you're like, the fuck is this?
Oh
Right?
yeah, absolutely.
So help me demystify some things about CrossFit. So can you explain the CrossFit workout like structure and why people kip and what does that look like if you're because I know some of your workouts have like names.
Yeah,
Like
so
I've seen my yeah.
you have benchmarks and things like that. So, as far as the kip goes, It's just a tool that CrossFit utilizes to increase the volume of work that you can do, right? Because Greg Glassman defined fitness as increased work capacity across broad time and modal domains. So by incorporating the KIP, you don't sustain muscle failure as quickly, and you can get more work done in a shorter period of time. All of the videos that you see on YouTube and them shitting on the KIP, uh, I think is warranted because a lot of how people implement the KIP, in my opinion, is incorrect, right? So CrossFit, how it's supposed to be implemented is mechanics, consistency, intensity, right? So mechanically, you need to be in, let's say, the pull up. You need to have the prerequisite strength to do a pull up before you have any business trying to do a kipping pull up. A lot of people try to get around that strength piece, and so they're kipping on shoulder muscles that can't even really support their body in the first place. So now you're supporting yourself with a tendon or something like that, and that's a recipe for inflammation at the least, injury at worst.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so how I structure it is, hey, I don't even want you to like look at kipping until you can give me some strict work and show me a good strict pull up. Um, then if you can repeat that and do multiple strict reps, now maybe we can incorporate the kipping pull up, so we can, these higher volume pulling workouts, you can get through them without reaching muscle failure.
Okay, that demystifies it for me because I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, I know you're trying to get more out, but like, why? And that clears that up. So the workout structure for CrossFit, what does that look like? Because I have a friend who does CrossFit, and he has like a little whiteboard in his garage, and he has all of his like workouts and PRs, and like today I'm gonna do the Judy, and I'm like, I've okay, like I don't know what that is. So can you go into that
Yep.
a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing about CrossFit that kind of differentiates it is it's measurable, right? So we measure three things, which is going to either be load, like the weight that you have on the bar, the time it takes you to accomplish a certain amount of work, or the amount of reps that you can accomplish in a certain amount of time. Uh, we use those benchmark workouts to basically test yourself, uh, repeat a workout to see that, hey, has my fitness increased? Have I gotten faster? Have I put up more reps, or have I put up more load than the last time that I attacked this workout? Um, and so it gives you a measurable way to be like, yes, I am getting fitter than I was, as opposed to, some of these more generic fitness methodologies that are just like, well, I mean, my arms look better, so duh, I'm fitter.
Yeah. Very surface level. So what? Okay. So then my next question is, I've been a gym bro my whole life for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I started working at Gold's Gym at like 15, so that's been the culture that I've been a part of. So, but I've been like side eyeing CrossFit a little bit because my friend Tom, he just makes it look so interesting, and he's so fucking lean. I hate him,
Yeah.
but he like it's so annoying. But like he comes over to do these EMOM workouts because I have a whole setup in my garage. So I have like the
Mm-hmm.
air assault. I have like the assault fitness like trio. So I have like the runner, the rower, and the air bike. And
Okay.
he comes over to do like that part of his training. But I forgot where I was going with this question. So if you have someone who comes to your gym, because I've only ever seen like just the most ripped people at CrossFit gyms. So let's say you have someone who is intimidated by the gym and they're not in shape. Maybe they're overweight, maybe they're not. They're like skinny fat is what I call them, but like
Mm-hmm.
they're not in shape. And they go into a CrossFit gym and they see this. I just say the Judy. I just made that up. And they have the Judy on the board, right? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
shit, like all these workouts. How does that work for someone who might be intimidated by just the gym in general?
So a lot of it's just meeting them where they are, right? Um, because like you've never done CrossFit, right?
Right.
Sounds like you have a decent amount of like physical or knowledge about fitness and things that you've done in the past. But I would not just have you come in and be like, "Hey, you're gonna do 21, 15, 9 of deadlifts at 185 and handstand push-ups." Like I would scale, I would watch you lift, and I'd be like, "Have you deadlifted before?" Yes. Okay. Show me with this PVC pipe. Okay. Everything looks really good there. Let's give you an empty barbell. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. You've obviously lifted before. Let's put some load on the bar uh, and get an idea of like what your capacity is with the deadlift. Then when it comes to the handstand push-up, I'd be like, "Have you ever done that?" And you would probably say, "No, I have not. I don't know that I could ever do that," is what a lot of people say. "I could never get upside down. I could never press up my own weight." And I'm like, "You can't yet, but we can get you there." Um, so I could scale it back and say, "Hey, I want you to do a dumbbell shoulder press.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to do a pike on a box where you put your feet on the box, you put your hands on the ground, and I want you to try to do a push up like that." Um, all of this stuff is scalable to wherever the athlete is uh, with the intention of moving them closer to whatever the written workout is. Um,
Interesting.
me specifically, like I prefer to train um, general physical preparedness people, like people that just want to be healthy in their life. Um, a lot of athletes that I've worked with, they have all the expectations, but they don't want to pay for it. They don't want to pay for some specialized programming. They don't want to pay for the extra time that I'm going to have to put in them to help them develop to that level. I'd rather work with somebody that when I ask them why they're there, they're like, "Well, my dad just had a heart attack. I look similar to him in body type, and I don't want to end up like my dad. I want to be healthier. I
Mm-hmm.
just had a newborn kid, and I want to be healthy and a good example for my kids." Um, and I prefer to work with them because if you meet them where they are, one, the level of progress that happens in the short term is like that, right? Like they get some results like right away, whether it's like that high you get after you did something hard that you didn't think you could do. They're just like, "Holy shit, Cody, I never thought that I could do that." And you're like, "Well, you just did. What's next? What are we going to do now?"
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I love that. Specifically with women, I love the change in confidence that I see the longer that they do it. Because I've had women come in that are what I would call like meek and keep to themselves, very introverted, don't really have any outward passion for much of anything. And then they come for a year, 2 years, and they're like a whole different person. You're like,
Yeah.
"Who are you and what have you done with this person that joined the gym?" Because I love it. Like put them away and just like leave them out forever. Because uh, they're just so much more confident. They come out and develop like just this outward personality and passion for like, "Yeah, I can do hard shit."
Yeah, I think that's the part of it that most people don't realize. I was pretty quiet. I would probably say I have a similar like story, like going to the gym and like developing the confidence. My confidence though didn't come necessarily from my body changing because I had always been ripped. Like there's a picture of me graduating sixth grade and I have full blown abs, like
Mm-hmm.
just stupid genetics. Not that I'm complaining, but
Yeah.
like I loved people being like, "Hey, you did a really good job. Like you're strong as shit." Like other coaches and like even working with the coach being like, "You started this plan only being able to bench press the bar and now we got, plates on this thing. So I think that's a side of it, the psychological and like mental well-being from fitness that people sometimes don't realize. It's more than just that. But
Yeah,
so
more than just aesthetics, for sure, for sure.
yeah, like I right now I told myself I was like I'm gonna get back into running. 'Cause since I stopped going down the PJ pipeline, I just stopped running, and I'm like, nah, I need to run. Like
Yep.
heart health, things like that. Like cardio is important, not just being strong. But so I guess my next question is how so you had these problems starting your gym. Well, after you started your gym
Yeah.
with your
Yep.
like neighbor. But that aside, what was it like for you being like, I own this? Like this is my gym. What was that like when you finally got to open that gym?
It was super rewarding and terrifying at the same time.
Hmm.
Uh, because, like you said, I mean, I was proud that Blake and I got to open this thing, and like we literally took what we had talked about and made it into reality. And like now it's this place where people can come and they can pay us money, and that feeling was great. But then you're terrified because you're like, well, I don't want to under deliver to these people. I don't know everything. I don't know uh, the entire business side of things. And so, what if I fail? What if this doesn't work out? What if, you just fucking what if yourself to death, and it can just cause you to not take any action because you're scared of, well, what if that doesn't work? And I learned quickly that you just have to do something and then course correct as you go. Like you're going to try a lot of things, and a lot of things are going to fall flat on their face, and you're going to look back and be like, that was fucking the dumbest thing that you could have done as a business owner. But
Yeah.
Jim's still here, still taking care of people, and you just learn that like there's not a whole lot of insurmountable problems. Like if you stay with it and you keep adjusting towards what you see as the right course, things tend to um, get worked out.
Yeah, I work one of my businesses as a business consultant, and I used to help small businesses. Well, I used to help new businesses, and I kind of got away from that because a new business owner is panicking every 5 seconds, and my phone was blowing up at all. They wake up in the middle of the night. Did we do this? What if this happens? I'm like, go to bed. Don't,
Yep.
like you're saying, like don't play the what if game. Just we'll tackle things one step at a time. But yeah, so I know that you mentioned you eventually bought out your partners. So
Yes.
what was
Oh, go
that
ahead.
like? And just from a business aspect, like I know how that works, but for listeners who are business owners, what is it like? What do you have to do to buy out a partner? What goes into that?
Well, so before I get into the buyout, what I would tell anybody that is going to have any sort of partnership,
Hmm.
regardless of how close you are with that partner, get an operating agreement. Like have
Yeah.
written list of expectations of the role that you are going to play and the role that your partner is going to play in the whatever it is that you're doing. Because if you
100%.
don't, inevitably there's going to be resentment that develops because you or they feel like the other party should be doing more. Um, it just leaves, it takes all of the uncertainty out of it, right? Because then it's on paper. If they are not holding up their end or you're not holding up yours, you have something to go to and be like, hey, like remember when we agreed that we were going to do this? Like, let's get back to doing that. Um, and ultimately, that's what happened in my situation is we did not do that. And so there was just a lot of, I think, unrealized expectations from both sides. Like, I mean, I had a lot of shortfalls. They had some shortfalls. I have no ill will against Blake at all. I mean, he still goes to the gym. and it just it wasn't working anymore from the expectation standpoint, uh, as well as like some stuff changed on his end as far as where he was working, where he was having to take on more there and wasn't able to put the time that he needed into the gym. Um, so we just came to the conclusion that like, hey, um, I need to buy this thing. So we sat down, we kind of talked about it, came up with what a realistic plan, price, and things like that, what that would look like. And then again, we just walked it out. Let's see here. I think I'm on year 4 as the sole owner.
Hmm.
Um, and like I said, I mean, we were both clear about what we wanted, and so have a good relationship even now.
No, that's awesome. So I invest. For a long time I was an angel investor. Now I just more of like a smaller venture capitalist at the moment, and sometimes I have to purchase businesses or parts of businesses for equity. And I always bake in the operating agreement. Like, I'm here as I'm writing a paycheck, I bring this to the table. Like, don't expect day to day operations from me. Like, it's all outlined. And then at the end, it's like, when I leave, this is how I leave. This is the buyout strategy. But no, you're
Mhm.
100% correct. I think that's probably the best advice I could give anybody at any moment in time is get things in writing. No matter what aspect of your life it is, business or not, in writing is gold. So, okay, so you guys came to those terms, seems what, amicably and mutually,
Mhm.
and now you're the sole owner. So, you have other trainers at the gym, or is it just you? How does that work for you now?
So I have a staff of 6 people, and several of them are coaches, and then some I have kind of been like ancillary jobs for like apparel that they design, put together all the orders for our apparel within the gym. I have what's called a client retention manager, and so she helps facilitate some retention strategies to keep people in the gym, to keep them as members, and to periodically reach out to them just to kind of check in on them and see how they're doing. And then another girl who helps with my social media and event planning.
Yeah, I will say now, just for everybody out there, I don't know Cody. We met on a veterans group, and I was really interested in his business. And I have to say, I'm thoroughly impressed by the way you talk about your business because I've turned down a lot of guests for this podcast because I felt like they were focused on the wrong things. And from the jump, talking about your business was always how can I serve these people? How can I make the best gym experience for them and putting them first? And a lot of your anxiety is coming from running the business, but also providing value to them. And I think that says a lot about any business owner is if you're willing to kind of like pour into the people who are going to your gym. And even having someone who's in charge of client retention, like that's fucking sweet. Like
Yeah.
if you ever need an investor, you let me know because
Yeah.
that's really awesome. A lot of gyms don't have that. They don't. It's all numbers and money for them. So having somebody in that position is incredible. So how does that? Okay, so then I guess my next question is: do people come in for like one-on-one coaching to a CrossFit gym?
So we have it available, but for the most part, we sell it more as just like, hey, come pick up a couple of sessions to like gain this skill that you're trying to achieve. Or I've had some people that are training for specific events. So we'll tailor some programming for that event, or specifically, like I've had a couple athletes that wanted to do the tactical games, so I would tailor some programming for that. But really, I try to keep the one thing the one thing. Like I just want to be the best CrossFit gym that we can be, and I see, trying to sell personal training or trying to sell other programs as just diluting the product that is CrossFit. And not to say I just knew that coming in. I mean, I I fucked that up like several times over. We tried offering boot camps. We tried offering weightlifting clubs. We tried offering, uh, you name it. I mean, we tried to bring in yoga class before, and what I found was that uh, it did not do great, and then it also kind of diluted what we were able to offer as just a CrossFit gym. So I came to the conclusion that like all these things that you think are good ideas are just excuses for you to like be like, well, if I had this thing, that's what's going to like put us on the next level. Instead of being like, well, if I would just make CrossFit great and everybody wanted to talk about it and tell every person they knew how it changed their life, that's what's going to make the gym a success. It's not this extra program or smoothie bar or um, special treadmill that I bought.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's pretty awesome. So I guess for me, I've always been a little bit intimidated of CrossFit gyms. I've always been generally curious. I've written it off for a long time.
Mhm.
But when the curiosity started to develop, especially now, like now I'm watching CrossFit games, like I'm obviously like curious, and I'm sure a lot of people out there are too. I know I've talked to some of my friends, and they're like CrossFit, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know what it's about, but it seems a little. You make it a little less intimidating, where you know that you can walk into a CrossFit gym at any fitness level and get a little one-on-one time. I mean, speaking to your gym at least, to kind of assess where you're at, and then you know progress from there. So now, so when you go into a CrossFit gym, is it class based?
Yes, so it's all group fitness based.
Oh, interesting.
Specifically at my gym, when you sign up, if you've never done it before, we do intro sessions with you one on one.
Hmm.
We also do kind of an extensive like dig into your life interview of, well, why are you here and what are your goals, and try to go way past the surface of like the generic answers I hear all the time is like, well, I just want to get fit, or I want to lose weight, or I want to get stronger. And I'm like, okay, well, how much stronger, or how much weight do you want to lose, or what is healthier mean to you? Um, and through process of elimination, you keep asking them and you keep sitting there in silence, just staring at them, waiting, that they typically divulge more of what the actual answer is of like, well, um, you know, I want my husband to like what he's looking at, or I want, um, kind of getting back to like my kids look at me now and they're like, yeah, my dad can't do shit, or my mom can't do shit, or I couldn't expect them to help me if they needed to. Um, and it's surprising just how, if you ask the right questions, people aren't used to that. They're not used to you like trying to pull back some layers. So people tend to get pretty emotional sometimes about it because you're uncovering these things that they know they're in the back of their mind, but they don't really bring it to light and tell anybody about it. And if you can get to that and you can get them behind that reason, that's a way to get a really high level of commitment out of someone, as opposed to, oh, you want to lose weight? Okay, yeah, start coming to the gym. You'll lose some weight.
Yeah, yeah. So when you ask those questions, what is the goal? Is the goal just to help them get to where they want to go based on the facts, based on like what's distilled down, or because I've done an interview for a gym before, which was so weird for me. They wouldn't let me join until I interviewed. But for
Hmm.
them, it was to maintain the culture, and it was a powerhouse out in like Long Beach. They're notorious for that. They have a lot of applications. They don't want to flood their gym or pack their gym out, so they interview everybody who's on this like wait list to make sure that they're there for the right reasons. But is that similar to why you guys do it?
Ours is more to just start building some trust and rapport with the client, to show that like, hey, we give a shit about you. We don't see you as just like a number for our membership. We see you as a human, and we want to get to know you, and we want to know what you care about. Um, I've never thought about it like you were saying, like from a cultural standpoint, but I think subconsciously I definitely do that because I've turned away people that I'm just like, yeah, I don't think you're a good fit.
Yeah. I think that's really good though. I wish more gyms would do that. I think if they did that, like the gym that I go to right now is Metroflex Marietta, and there's definitely an old school wrought iron gym vibe there. It's
Hmm.
definitely, I wouldn't call it a bodybuilder's gym, but it's very close to that. It's definitely very focused on strength training, but the only negative I'll say about it, and this is a sentiment that a lot of members share, is that they're always like, you trip over equipment. There's so much fucking equipment in this place. It's like the latest and greatest toy is in there. And I wish if there was a little bit more screening done. For one, it wouldn't be packed out 24/7, which is super annoying. And two, I think it would protect the culture a little bit because there have been times where there's a lot of gym drama and I just don't go. I'll go to another gym
Hmm.
because a new person joined and they're just a douche or they don't fit the gym culture. They don't fit the culture of that gym, which is very old school. Everyone there is very mature. It's no games, but every now and then there's somebody that'll come in and it's just like you're ruining it for everybody.
Oh yeah.
So, no, I like that. I think that's good though. I also think that going somewhere where you're going to be working out in a group, knowing that they give a fuck about you because they know why you're there is, I don't know. I think that's pretty cool. So other than the other CrossFit gym, I don't know much about Oklahoma. I did just buy some land in Oklahoma, but what is there? Are there other CrossFit gyms? What is the? I don't know. I think Oklahoma. I think Carrie Underwood Country. Like everybody sees like Chakota. Like that's what I know about Oklahoma. So
Yep.
is there a gym
Uh,
culture there?
oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like Edmond, I think there's probably at least four other CrossFit gyms in Edmond that I can think of.
Wow.
Oklahoma City, there's several of them. But yeah, I had uh, a very similar vision of Oklahoma before I moved here.
Yeah.
Um, but it's pretty rich in culture and food, and like music is kind of starting to make a really good um, like have a really good presence in Oklahoma. I honestly love it there. I mean, the people would give you the shirt off their back for the most part. Sometimes can be a little overly nosy, but I see that as more of a pro than a con because
Yeah.
I've lived in New York and people, would just be shitty to you for absolutely no reason.
Yep.
Um, and then as far as gyms go, I mean, there's several different, I would call them like niches in the market of CrossFit. Some people are just like trying to be ultra high level competitive athletes. You got the GPP, like I was talking about, general physical preparedness. And then you got kind of like the more boutique, like let's do all the CrossFit workouts, but not call it CrossFit.
Yeah.
Um, and I would say those are kind of like your three main groups there. But as far as owner to other owners, I've had mixed kind of experiences there, like trying to reach out to them, whether it be to ask for advice or see what they're doing that's working. Some owners, accept you with open arms and are nothing but helpful. And then there are others that feel like you're encroaching on their territory somehow. And so they kind of like, try to keep you at arm's reach.
Yeah. You're the competition. They can't.
Right, exactly. I'm like, bro, there's enough people to go around for all of us. Like, chill the fuck out.
I never understood that. So I own a fitness company where you're online training primarily like health psychology, which is what my specialty is. And sometimes I'll have other trainers reach out to me and there's always this like long introduction first. Like, listen, I know I'm a trainer, I know this is conflict of interest, and I'm like, dude, just ask the fucking question. Like,
Yeah.
I will help you. There's no
Uh-huh.
competition here. we are options for people. It's up to the individual to figure out who they want to work with, who do they have chemistry with. We are not in competition. I'm not
Yep.
fighting over clients with you. And if I am, then we've lost sight of what we're doing. So I never understood. I mean, I get it, but I'm also just like, come on, bro. Like,
Right.
if
Yeah. You're just like, there's enough for all of us is how I look at it. And I mean, I've fallen into the trap a couple of times where I would get, a little pissed about one thing or another. Somebody left to go to another gym and I'd be like, "Ah, fuck that gym." Like, yeah, those
that's
those
healthy.
people, yeah, those people suck. And like you said, it deviates your focus away from where it needs to be. Like if you just focus on you, your community, and what you got going on, and how you can make that the best it can be, like that other shit, one, doesn't matter, and two, you're just leveling up, and even if they started off ahead of you, at some point you're going to surpass them.
Yeah, I mean, healthy competition is fine. I mean, that's the whole point. The whole point is to have competition because if both of you are fighting, or if everybody is fighting to be the best gym, that just means that people have some amazing options. And like,
Yep.
I go to Metroflex, but like, I have a membership at their like competitor gym, which is like just the gym down the road. And
Hmm.
that's only because this shit's always packed out, or like I'm tripping over new machines. So if it gets too packed, I just go down the road because it's convenient. And I get no a convenient alternative.
Hmm.
But I also find that that's the case in the jiu-jitsu community, which I didn't know about. It is very competitive. I
Oh
was
yeah.
training at like a Carlson Gracie, and then I went to like another one, and it was like, you can't, if you earned your stripe there or your belt there, you can't
We're
wear it
taking it.
here.
Yeah, we're taking it back.
And I'm like, first of all, like, let's settle this on the mat. You can decide if I earned it, but like, I never understood that. It's very taboo in certain gym cultures to go to competing gyms, but anyway, yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
and
pretty
there's
interesting.
so many parallels with CrossFit and Jiu-Jitsu specifically. I've done Jiu-Jitsu as well, and yeah, I mean sometimes the owner works against his own best interest because
Hmm.
he or she wants to prove themselves or something like that, so they get all these members that just beat the fuck out of the new people, and then the new people don't come back. Like, because they're
Yeah,
like, man, fuck those guys. I don't like any of them. They almost broke my arm 4 times in a week.
yeah. I when I first got into jujitsu, I had gained a ton of weight, and I was really intimidated going back into the gym. And I went to a Carlson Gracie, and there's no levels. Like the class is the same for everybody. It doesn't matter what belt you are. Obviously, lower belts fighting higher belts. It just depends on what you're doing. But it was really hard for me to catch up, and it was, there wasn't a lot of one-on-one to teach me the basics. So, and I had come from Krav Maga. That was my background. So completely different. Krav Maga is extremely like joint manipulation, striking, things like that. So I went to another gym because they had a beginner's class. You'd earn your
Mhm.
first stripe, but it was like 12 weeks. They teach you the basics, they build up your cardio. It's a lot less intimidating. You're with other people who are also new, similar fitness levels in some cases, and I felt a little bit better about that. But when I went to go back, so I finished that class, I went to go back to Carlson Gracie. They're like, "Where'd you get your stripe? Like, what's this? What's that?" And I was like, "Oh, fucking hold on, bro.
Yeah, you're like, guys,
Like, you
chill.
didn't earn it here. It doesn't count." And I'm like, I'm not like transferring college credits. Like, it's not how this works.
Yeah, and you're
But
like,
it was,
it's literally a piece of fucking tape. Like, give
yeah.
me a break.
And they all compete at the same like local competitions. So, that's like the biggest thing is like the best gym is like whoever's ranking highest in the region. And that Gracie gym and the other gym I went to, which they just recently changed their name, they were kind of on the same level. So it's not like I went to like the worst gym and just wanted to claim a stripe. It's like being valedictorian at a community college, thinking you're going to go to Harvard and have the same rapport. It's like, I get it,
Yep,
but but that we're not at fucking Harvard, so relax. And I'm not going to like the best gym, but it's interesting that that transcends different disciplines in fitness. That you,
for sure. I mean, like we have local CrossFit competitions and things like that, and it's funny that you made that correlation between the community college and Harvard, because I talk to people about that all the time. I'm like, okay, so you went and you won a local CrossFit competition. Like, where does that fall on the scale of here to the CrossFit Games? And they're all
Yeah.
gloating around the gym and bragging and like, I'm so fit, and I'm like, bro, you won a local CrossFit competition.
Yeah.
I'm
It's like
like,
the
it's I was like, I'm glad, I'm happy that you're excited, but the fact that those people tend to start talking down to other people because they're somehow now better than everybody else, that rubs me the wrong way.
yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, I'll never understand that, especially the chip on the shoulder thing, because I see that sometimes in the gym. It's like dude comes in knowing he can deadlift more than everybody else in there, and I'm like, but let's see your bench though. Like,
Right. Oh yeah.
yeah, like let's see if this transcends planes of fitness, because impressive, but humble yourself a little bit. We're all here to
Right.
achieve the same thing, but no, it's interesting. Do you are there a lot of other veterans where you're at? 'Cause I don't know shit about Oklahoma. Sorry. Like,
Yeah, so it's a pretty good retirement community for vets, and
oh,
Tinker Air Force Base is in Midwest City, which is probably like 20, I don't know, 25 minutes from the gym. So there's a pretty good
oh,
amount of veterans there.
yeah.
There's a base also in Lawton, an Army artillery base out there. So I would say there's a pretty good veteran presence in the state.
That's interesting. I had no idea. I know of some like DoD presence in Oklahoma, but um again, I'm not really familiar with the state. So for all I know, it's like at the handle and you're nowhere near there. So I don't even know where you're at. So, but anyway, but yeah. No, that's interesting. But yeah, so I guess so what's the name of your gym? Sorry. I think I skipped over that.
CrossFit Never Broken.
Oh, it's on your fucking shirt. Okay. That's pretty dope. All right. So, if do you guys do so it's in person only? Do you guys do anything online or anything like
No,
that?
no, we did during COVID,
Hmm.
and then uh, it was a lot of work trying to put all that stuff together for the online portion of it.
Hmm.
So I just got back to doing the in person stuff. I prefer it anyway. I feel like I can develop a better relationship with someone if I can see them and yell at them face to face and tell them to get off the floor or get on the floor.
Yeah, no, online coaching there there's a whole new level of struggle there. I work with like C-suite executives now who have the money. They are just always so busy or full of excuses. So it's like, man, I wish we were in person so I could tell you to suck it the fuck up and let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's awesome. But I just thought, is there anything else that you want to maybe share before we wrap up the episode? I want to respect your time. I know that we've been swapping sea stories a little bit, but
Let me see. Well, let me like take the opportunity to thank my staff. So yeah, Caitlin, Catherine, Josh, I appreciate you guys. You do a great job coaching. Josh is newer, but he has been very eager to like hone his craft. So all three of you, thank you for what you do. I could not have the gym as it is without you. You are definitely a big part of what makes Never Broken Never Broken. And then I want to thank Brittany, Meredith, and Nicole. Your roles are imperative to what makes the gym continue to go round and round. And I am very grateful and thankful for them as well. Yeah, like you kind of alluded to it before, but I feel called to serve other people. I really enjoy, um, you know, helping people in any way that I can, and I found that through fitness, um, I'm pretty well suited for that. So I would just tell anybody that is pursuing some sort of business, make sure that you have some sort of passion for it, because one, passion has a shelf life. I mean, You do the grind long enough, and if you're not willing to like just put your head down and get after it, you're gonna quit. So make sure it's something that you really like, genuinely love and want to be doing, because whether it's something you're passionate about or not, uh, it could fail either way. So you might as well pick something that you love. Um, and then I would say realize you may be bent, but you're never broken. So that's like our slogan. You're going to have times in your life where stuff is just not going your way. Seems like everything's going the opposite way. But realize that's just an opportunity for you to get better, and you'll come out stronger on the other side of whatever that obstacle is.
That's awesome. Also, you're the first person to thank their staff on here, so future guests, take note. I really appreciate that. I think that really speaks volumes to your leadership. So, yeah, with that, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you taking me up on the offer to be on the podcast, and yeah.
No, thanks so much for having me, Jesse. And I guess I'll give myself a shameless plug here. If you're in Edmond, Oklahoma, I encourage you to come check out CrossFit Never Broken. You can find us on Instagram, Never Broken OK. And I'll get Jesse a link. If you don't live in Oklahoma and you want some sweet swag, we sell print to order stuff that you can order online.
Yeah, just support the gym. Go follow you guys. I'll leave a link to everything in the description. Thanks again, Cody.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. Appreciate it.